Today, on Be Something Wonderful, mind-blowing, changing this assumption changes your entire life. I am your host, Tom Kearin, and this is the Be Something Wonderful studio of higher consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Creators, welcome back. Good morning. Big video this morning. I want to talk about some sessions yesterday, some insights from some clients and changes that are happening in their life. The one I really want to talk about to start with is this client that I met with on Monday at the beginning of the week. And there were a lot of things we talked about, a lot of topics, but one of the topics that came up is that she assumed, this was her assumption, right, as we uncovered it, that she's never invited out, never invited by others, that she always has to initiate. Right? She's never invited out by her coworkers or her friends to events, right? To do things. And she said that past weekend, because it was a Monday, she said that she's bringing up evidence of this. And I said, you're going to always find evidence of your assumptions. Your assumptions come first. The world comes after. Right? It's an assumptive world, as Neville Goddard says. So we really got at that. And she goes, oh my God, really, it's true that I have been assuming that. Changed her assumptions. She reached out yesterday and said that she's been invited to 3 different events this weekend coming up. And here's the thing, the events were always there. That's what I was trying to tell her. Those invitations were always there. She just wasn't seeing it through her assumptions, right? She's believing that she had to initiate. And then another client, as we talked about assumptions, as she sort of looked at some recent events in her life, and she's a pretty powerful creative, this other client, she goes, it's mind-blowing. Everything is an assumption. And then this other subscriber, right, said, hi, I think she wrote or he wrote on the channel, hi, Tom, I manifested a job just declaring that I am God, that I am awareness, and being in the present moment as much as possible. This was, I believe, posted on the channel, right? I wasn't always perfect, but reminded myself my thoughts, feelings, and circumstances are temporary. What I say is the only truth, as everything's my creation. I love this because this subscriber is making their only assumption that they create it all. Their core assumption or their root assumption, their root belief or assumption is, I am completely unlimited. Hear this because you can see it, right? I'm completely unlimited and my assumptions create my reality. I create it all. And if I say I have that job, then I have that job. I am the awareness in which that job forms. I'm the awareness in which my whole life takes place. That's powerful right there, right? Remember, your assumptions create the world. It's not that you see the world and then you have assumptions about it. You are awareness, your reality. And what you are aware of is not reality, but rather an experience within your awareness based on your assumptions. Remember, what you're aware of is not reality. Awareness is reality. You're seeing what's taking place in that horizontal linear experience as reality. But it's an experience within that ultimate reality of awareness of being. That's who you are. That's powerful. So let's hit this. In other words, everything is just an assumption or a story. We talked about stories, but even more than that, everything's just an assumption in the linear horizontal 3D experience. That's what Scripture was saying when they said, before Abraham was, I am. Before Abraham, I am. Before any story, before any assumption, before any thought, feeling, or condition that, quote, happens or is an experience within that awareness, there's I am. Remember, everything's an experience within your awareness of being, in your I am. That's why Neville Goddard said it's an assumptive world, right? This is infinite power and infinite potential to be anything, any form, or any condition. Any story, any assumption, any feeling, any condition. It all happens within that awareness of being, within that consciousness. You're only ever experiencing the contents of your consciousness, right? Yet that awareness of being, that infinite power, that infinite potential that you are, is always greater than and forever unchanged by any form or any experience or any story or any assumption or any thought or feeling that happens within it. Right? Every event in the invisible world, the world of Abraham, right? The invisible world, before Abraham, before the visible world, I am, right? Is the result of an assumption or idea in the unseen world. Neville got it. Every event in the visible world, world of Abraham, is the result of an assumption of an idea in the unseen world. I am that, awareness or consciousness. Very powerful. And so remember, the present, this is what Neville Goddard says about the present moment. The present moment, for it is only in the present moment that our assumptions can be controlled. The present moment is all important. Even this client, the subscriber says it. Right? I wasn't always perfect, but I reminded myself by thoughts, feelings, and circumstances. I am God awareness, being in the present moment as much as possible. You can't help but be in the present moment. I am is only in the present moment. Your whole beingness is in the present moment. And I wanted to show you again, even as you walk through, there you are walking through your horizontal experience, 3D reality, right? As you have these frames of experiences, right? These images, in these frames of experiences in that I amness, in that awareness. You see the awareness here, right? But as you stay in the present moment, as you stay in the vertical, and understand that all your assumptions created all, that present moment, all of these frames of reality are in potential to be, do, or have whatever you want right now. In that moment, this is all now, right? This is the moment of now. All of it, all of this is now. Up, down, all around, it's all now, right? The past, present, and future are being created by your assumptions right now, right? And when your assumptions change, all time changes. New assumptions are equal to a new version of you, right? A new reality, a new version of you and a new version of others. As you walk in that, see, even as you light up that future, that desired future, as you walk through that linear experience and you imagine something different, all frames of reality change. We showed that before. That's the miracle of the assumption, right? So we're going to come back to this. Because creation is finished, what you desire already exists. It is excluded from view because you can only see the contents of your own consciousness. Again, Neville got it. You can only see the contents or the assumptions of your own consciousness. You can only see your assumptions. That's all you're ever going to see. That's powerful, right? This other client says this: I've experienced significant positive changes in my life through I am, or the I am tech. They call it the I am technique. I like that. It's the I am technique. Remember, you are the process. So I really like that name that this client uses. So it's the I am, and then in parentheses, I am technique. Because it really, by definition, means you're the process. I am technique, or I am the technique. I began to be more aware, and I've had lots of downloads from the I am presence. Again, that presence, right? And then she talks about her teenage son spending too much time on games, overeating, and not exercising. They're visiting their teenage son, I guess, or their son's visiting them for the summer. I was tired of asking and demanding him to change. It led to arguments between my son, my ex-husband, and me. So they were trying to get the 3D conditions, the 3D world, to conform to what they want, right? To what they want. But remember, it's their assumptions pushed out. It can only reflect what they're assuming within. You can't go out there and try to move around things and try to change it, because it's just going to create more of the same reality that is no longer your choice. Do you see it? It keeps you locked in that script. That's what was going on there. And this is why Neville Goddard says you win by assumption what you can never win by force. You can't force anything. This client, I remember, feeling frustrated, she says, the mom, I decided to manifest the best version of my son. In other words, what is she really saying? I decided to manifest the best version of me. I decided to change my assumptions about who I am and my relationship to the world. That's what she was really doing. It came through this idea of seeing her son doing his chores, not overeating, being engaged in swimming and doing all those things that she would like him to do. But it was really her that changed. And then, of course, the world changes accordingly. And the actors in that world, those others, right, in that world change. Those versions of those people in your world change as your world changes, right? It's an assumptive world, right? I assumed him independently going for swims, doing chores without prompting, and reading his summer book, right? Remember that you're feeling frustrated. It's not who you are, right? It's not who you are. You're not the frustration. So even as she was feeling frustrated, knowing that that's not who I am, still moved to imagine the best version. So it's not those temporary thoughts and feelings that are going to derail you. Right? It's okay to feel frustration. It's okay to feel whatever. And she got that. That's not who she is. Right? And then I like this where she says, I decided. I decided. It's a choice. Right? You get to choose. I decided to align with my reality. I decided to choose my world. Right? It aligns you with the conviction of I am that immediately. When you say I choose or I decide, you are that immediately. You are that new identity. She became that new identity in that moment. Do you see it? Even if she didn't imagine it, even if she didn't go into visualizations or imagining or creating images of it, an imaginal act, she created it anyway with that decision, with that assumption, with that movement. It's done right there, right? The details of the imaginal act don't really matter, right? You are the process. Remember, the power of any imaginal scene is in its implication. Its implication of fulfillment. Right? Your attention, your awareness is reality. The imaginal act and assumption just keeps your attention or your awareness on your desired end. That's the whole power of all techniques. It keeps your focus and attention without effort on your desired end. Because remember, awareness creates reality. Awareness is reality. So that awareness is manifested in 3D reality as your attention. And whatever you give time, space, and attention to is reality. That's why processes are so powerful. From affirming, scripting, to imagining, to the state akin to sleep, to doing it in an alpha state. They're all powerful. Why? Because they keep your attention, your awareness, without effort on your desired end. That's powerful. So let's continue this. And this is what she says. After letting go and trusting the process, my ex-husband continued to complain. However, I didn't react and retreated to my room to visualize my son's best version once more. So even as 3D conditions around her were still in her face, telling her nothing's changed, her ex-husband complaining, she still persisted in her end, in her new identity, despite those contrary conditions. Then she says, the very next day, hear this, she had that immediate burst of anomalous energy that we talked about in yesterday's video. I left a link, right? The very next day, my son surprised me. He woke up early, prepared his own breakfast. I found him in the backyard swimming in the pool instead of lounging on his cell phone. He also completed tasks like walking the dog and taking out the trash without being asked. She goes, this transformation astounded me. But it's not him that transformed, it was her new identity. She had that anomalous burst of energy that we talked about that moved her in a new sector of that alternative space, of infinity, of a new lifeline, a new reality. She quantum jumped into a new identity and a new lifeline. Do you see that? And I want to talk about what, in her case, what caused it. Because yes, she did imagine for a week, for sure. And then she did imagine again, even as her ex-husband was pushing, complaining. But what really did it? She had total alignment of her heart and mind that we discussed in yesterday's video at this moment. At this moment. That's why she saw it the next day. So I want to talk about this. Yes, she was persisting. But more than that, she created unity between her heart and mind. Right? That video yesterday, manifest it right now, the only thing that keeps it in the future. I put a link to that video here in the description. But she created unity of heart and mind by doing both. By one, intentionally imagining, focusing her attention awareness on her desired end, persisting in that, and 2, having an anomalous burst of energy, higher energy level, that source that's translated into more powerful intention that we talked about yesterday's video, created by her, here's where that burst of anomalous energy was created by her ex-husband's disbelief and complaining. It's almost like, I'll show him. Right? And that was an anomalous, that was a new feeling, a new burst of energy. This created an instant and powerful unity of the heart and mind, combined, of course, with her intentionally imagining her attention awareness by her persistence. All of that was combined. And in her mind, and her decision, intention, and choice to occupy that new version of reality. This created an instant, powerful unity of heart, that God consciousness and that creative force, in her mind being her decision, her intention, and choice to occupy that new version of reality. Again, these ideas are covered in that video that I linked below in more detail in yesterday's video. But her greater assumption, hear this, what her greater assumption, in all cases with all of these clients, their greater assumption is, I am awareness. I am awareness and I am reality. And what I assume, what I choose, what I decide is the only reality. There are no facts outside of what I choose and what I decide. There's no world outside of my assumptions. That was their bigger assumption. And what I assume within that awareness, in her case, her son's behavior, is an announcement and experience of my reality right now. That's mind-blowing. That's why changing this assumption changes your entire life. In other words, changing it to, I am that awareness. I am that reality. And what I say is so. What I say is reality is so. I create worlds with my assumptions. I am your host, Tom Kearin, and this is the Be Something Wonderful studio of higher consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Creators, thank you. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for liking and sharing and commenting on the videos. Thank you for being part of our Facebook group, the Be Something Wonderful Ambassadors, at facebook.com/groups/Be Something Wonderful. We have more than 3,000 members now, and it's growing every day. Thank you for joining. Thank you for being part of our Instagram and Twitter at Tom Kearin, and our membership channel, where that's growing as well. And we have a new video. I've already got it queued up. It will be released today exclusively on the membership channel. Look for that. If you're a member, look for that. If you're not a member, check it out. There's a link below. Creators, with great love, with great light and infinite gratitude, this is Tom Kearin with the Be Something Wonderful studio in Las Vegas. Until next time, see you soon.